Hello everyone, this is Lucas with part 2 of my solar phone charger made from scrap electronics. And I'm going to be going through the battery side of things right now and the electrical components that I'm going to be using coming off the battery in order to charge the phone. As I stated in my last video that I'm producing 12 volts of power off of the panels, and I'm going to be putting that 12 volts into a 12 volt backup battery. This one in particular came from an old fire panel where the charging circuit actually melted. Most of the batteries in the circuit were dead, but this one actually was fine. I tested it. A friend of mine gave it to me because it was headed for scrap, but I tested it, I've charged it, I've discharged it, and it works pretty well. And what I have here is just a standard automotive 12 volt converter. These are the kinds that you plug into your 12 volt adapter in your car so that you can then plug in a USB cord in order to get your 5 volts to charge whatever. And if you can see here, if I plug in this power bank, you can see the lights. See the lights? We are at full power. I just charged this power bank off of this battery. And the reason why I did that is I want to make sure that this battery has been discharged a little bit and has dropped in power before I hook it up to the solar panels, because I want to ensure that I'm actually putting power into the battery. So a little tip and trick for when you're going to be using one of these 5 volt, 12 to 5 volt automotive converters. When you solder your wire, you can leave it in the casing if you want, but I don't. I take it out so that I can mount it somewhere else on the device or whatever it is that I'm using. But if you do take this out of the casing like I have, be sure that you leave this spring attached to the board and solder your positive wire onto that spring. I've had a lot of issues where some chargers I've gotten away with removing the spring and soldering it directly to the board, but I run into issues, it seems, lately whenever I do that. So by leaving the spring on, I've eliminated those issues, and I have more success in the converter working afterwards. And what I'll usually do is I'll just tape this to something, or mount it with some good epoxy or something like that to the device. We'll be doing that later in the video, but for now, I just want to make sure that all my circuits are working properly, that I am actually getting the conversion of 12 volts to 5 volts to power this power bank. And you're probably wondering why I just didn't go with a 5 volt system to begin with. I mean, you can, but at the end of the day, if I can produce 12 volts and then convert it back into 5 volts, I can use a 2.1 amp charger as opposed to the lower amp chargers, so that I can charge higher power devices like new phones, power banks, and all that other kind of stuff off of the 12 volts. And like I said, all this is junk, and you're seeing already that that we have full power on a power bank that I was able to charge off this. So not only will I have a system where I can charge my phone, but I can also charge a power bank. So this isn't just going to be a standalone system that sits in my window and charges my phone. If I want, I can leech that power off into a power bank and then take it with me for portable purposes or whatever, or I could use this system to charge a USB device in the house, or power something in the house, maybe a robot, a controller for a couple minutes, or whatever else. But all junk. And as you can see, it's working very well. I will caution people, when you're working with lead acid batteries, be careful with these things. They do pack quite a bit of a punch. If you are to cross these two terminals and touch each other, you will get a spark, probably enough to weld the two terminals together, and you will get problems. These can catch fire, and they can be dangerous. But I mean, I know I've done this lots before, and I was very careful with how I hooked it up. This isn't going to be how it hooked up. This is just, like I said, this is just the beta test to make sure that all my circuitry is good before I do the final mount, and of all the electronics, the panels into the HDF, and all this other stuff. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Don't forget our Patreon down below, and I'll see you in the next video.